Hi, I'm Candice Brown, and today we are going to be making this skillet pan apple pie in the Gozney dome. So, pastry, I use a mixer and I whip the butter until it is pale and whipped. This just made for such a lovely, crumbly, short pastry. If you want to do it the traditional way, rubbing the butter in by hand, you absolutely can, but I found that a bit boring. So I'm just going to whip my butter up. So you'll know when your butter's ready or your butter's whipped enough, because it literally changes colour. So it goes from that kind of real yellowy, buttery colour to a nice pale buttery colour. So I'm now just going to add in my sugar. This is a sweet short crust, but I wanted quite a rich, hence the egg yolks as well. And if you were doing it by hand, you would do flour first, butter into your flour and rub until you get breadcrumbs, then stir through your sugar, and then you would add your egg yolk and your water. We're just going to add in 2 egg yolks. If it does start to curdle and it starts to separate, just add maybe a teaspoon of flour and it should bring it back together. This is fine. This is great for the mixing. As soon as you add the flour, you don't want to mix it too much. I am just going to add in plain flour. I'm going to flavour my pastry with some cinnamon. It adds a lovely colour, but a really nice flavour as well. A pinch of salt. Really, really key. Just going to mix just until it starts to come together. Literally 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Just as you see the butter coming in there. Enough. So I'm going to take that bowl off. Where that butter started to come through, get your hands in now and give that a good mix round. So I'm literally almost making like a claw. I'm not squishing it down, because one of the other things as well is you don't want lots of heat with pastry. You don't want the butter to melt, and I'm trying to work fast and keep it nice and cool. Add 2 teaspoons of water at a time, because we don't want it to be sticky. You've almost got this cinnamony, buttery coloured breadcrumbs. Once you like that, it's all combined, you can just squish it down and form a dough. Now you might find this easier to turn out onto a worktop, not working it at all. Flatten it down into like a big disc. And then we're going to wrap it in cling film and pop it in the fridge for 45 minutes to an hour. Because if you pop it in like this, it's going to shrink, the butter's going to leak. It'll probably be delicious, but just be a little bit sloppy. And no one wants sloppy pastry. And there we go. Filling the size of these. I've got Bramley apples because I really like the tartness. So I'm going to put some rum over my sultanas, let that soak that up. I've then got a nice little star anise. It's so classic and it's so lovely. I'm going to peel my apples. I mean, they're so big, I could probably going to be here for a week. I reckon about 4 will do it. We want a nice substantially filled pie. No one wants an underfilled pie. Fruit will cook down, apples will cook down. Okay, I'm probably only going to do 4 because I'm starting to sweat and this is quite boring. We've got 4 of the world's biggest apples now peeled, and you just want to take the middle out, so core them, mind your fingers. But we kind of want them this sort of size, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. We do want them to cook fairly quickly because we are using the dome. The pastry does cook quicker. We are actually going to cook them off slightly before as well. Now they want to go into a bowl. Our apples are in, sultanas are there. I've got a bit of brown sugar because we want some sweetness, but we don't want too much. I really don't want to take away from that lovely tartness of those apples. A little bit of lemon stops the apples going brown. Give that a little mix around. You can leave that ½ hour, let all that kind of rum and everything soak in. You've got a little bit of juice in there. We don't want too much juice, that's really important. If you add too much, you're kind of running the risk of getting a soggy bottom with your pastry, which I actually don't mind, but I know some people are pretty against it. Nearly forgot this little guy. And this is what will help to absorb all those flavours. Don't forget to take it out though, because that will not be very nice if you crunch that. So I'm just going to leave these to soak. Going to cover them a little bit of cling film or a tea towel for about 20 minutes. And then we're going to cook these off in the dome and get cracking with our pie. Cast iron pan. I'm going to put this into the dome. So I'm going to leave that in there for a couple of minutes. Then I'm adding in just a knob of butter. What does a knob equate to? That's just going to go into the pan. And then we're literally going to tip the apples in, pop them back into the dome, give them a jiggle every 5 minutes. We want to just move them around probably 15, 20 minutes just to start to soften down. And then we just go in with our apples. A little bit of a mix and then back in. Keep an eye on them because obviously we don't want them to catch too much, but it's just really nice. They start to soften. Obviously the ones on the bottom in all the juice, and then the ones on top start to colour slightly while also retaining some of that firmness as well. So I'm going to give it a little stir so you can see, oh, those apples are starting to catch and caramelise, and you can see how quickly they're starting to soften up. So probably about 5-10 minutes and they'll be good to go. Right, my apples are done. Ooh, it's a good noise. Oh, listen to them. So you can see that some of them have held their texture. They've absorbed all that lovely rum and sugar. Oh God. So you can see all that lovely juice under there, some firmness in some of the apples, and we've got some squishy bits. The sultanas are nice and plump, and the smell. You've got kind of that spiciness from the rum, that little bit of aniseed from the star anise. Don't let me forget to take that out. That'd be very upsetting. So skillet pan apple pie, all the love for the skillet pans, but what I'm gonna do, the pastry needs to cook, and because they are quite thick bottomed, we want it to cook but not burn. So I am going to heat up the skillet pan. I'm then going to add a little bit of butter, another knob, slightly smaller knob this time, about a tablespoon of brown sugar. Let that cook, and then I'm going to put the pastry on top. I don't know why, but it works and it makes it taste nice. So skillet pan just goes in, and while that is happening, I can roll out. So I've got my pastry here, which is nice and soft. I'm going to probably about a third for my lid. And this is an all-round pie. We've got pastry on the top and the bottom. Now a nice little tip is roll it out between 2 pieces of greaseproof paper, because then you don't need to add flour to it, which changes the consistency. It's my nan's rolling pin, one of my most prized possessions. So probably about the thickness of a pound coin, but look, it doesn't stick. Ta-da! Pan on the edge, and then I'm just going in with my knob of butter. So that skillet pan has started to heat up from the bottom now. Just goes in. So we don't want to turn it into caramel. We want to catch it just before that. Our pan is very hot. Don't touch it. Might have done that while I was practicing. We're just going to pop our pastry on the top, peel it off. The good thing with this is we can patch up the holes. Patch, patch, patch. Obviously where it is hot, just be really careful of the pan. And then we just trim those little bits off the edge. And this then goes back in for a couple of minutes, just to almost seal and cook that bottom. We've let the flame die down, so it's just the embers now. So we just want this to cook ever so slightly so that we're not getting that soggy bottom. That will literally be 2-3 minutes. Already you can see it's changing colour, and it just stops all the liquid seeping through. Whilst my base is baking in the dome, I'm just going to roll out my top. This will be slightly smaller. Move it around to get a sort of circle, and then all we do is we lay it on, trim it off, whack it in, and you've got a lovely apple pie in the pizza oven. There we go. So you can see it's just colouring ever so slightly. Now I reckon another minute or so, and then we are good to go with our filling. Coming out with my pastry base, pastry bottom. Oh, look at that beaut. Got the egg white left over. Use a little bit just to brush the base, and it acts like a little sealant. full of tips for you. The smell of that is just, oh yeah. Can apples and sultanas be sexy? Yes, they bloody can. We flip over, we peel back again. Just be really, really careful because obviously it is very, very hot. Tuck down the edge, pushing down with a spoon, not so sharp because we don't obviously want to lose our edges. And then just take the edges off. The heat helps as well. So it's like it's doing it for you. Poke a hole in the middle, let the steam escape. I love that it drops down and covers all of those apples like that. We can give it a little bit more of a glaze on top. I have done this both with and without the door. With the door on and the embers, you get a really nice even goldenness. With gas and with the flame, you want to probably bake it for about 5, 6, 7 minutes. Get a nice colour on top and then just cover it loosely with a bit of tin foil and then whack it back in for 20, 25 minutes. Works perfectly. But with the door and the embers going, we can put it in like this and just keep an eye on it. Let's add a little bit of demerara sugar, I reckon, for a little bit of crunch. And then we're going in for about 20, 25 minutes. You should really be serving apple pie with something. I know people are a big fan of cream, but let's just raise it up ever so slightly. So we're just going to do a little rum cream, whack some of that into some double cream, and then just whisk. And the reason I'm doing this by hand, 1, it's less noisy, but 2, I just want it just slightly thickened. So it's dollop stage, which I think is a very, very technical, very, very chefy term indeed. I don't want it to be like stiff or anything like that. Look, it's going already, and we're there. Beautiful. Ta-da! So I've taken the door off, you've got a little flame going, so it's getting that really nice golden caramel colour. I have spun it, so I'm just going to have a little look. Oh, look at those little bubbles of just juicy goodness. Crisp, buttery pastry. Oh, hello. And I love those little cracks where the pastry's almost mouth-watering. Sunk over the apples. You've got loads of filling in there. Buttery, rich pastry. And you can see that, just those little bubbles all around there. Definitely need to let it cool ever so slightly before cutting into it. Right, I think it's about time that we had I say little slices. I'm not going little, of course I'm not going little. That crisp deliciousness going in. I'm gonna try to get a lovely big fat slice here. Just, oh good. Shows really how short and crumbly the pastry is. Oh, it's just crumbling because it's just so good. And then I'm just going on with a dollop of this rum cream. Yes. Oh my God, my mouth's watering. It's still quite hot, but oh wow. I mean, it's quite warm, but I'm gonna go in for a second bit. And also, just checking my bottom. No sogginess at all. No sogginess in this bottom. You've got almost that chewy caramel. The apples are so tart. And then those plump sultanas, almost such short pastry, such shortbread, it completely melts in the mouth. So good. I'm really pleased with that. That is my skillet apple pie cooked in the dome. For the recipe, go to gozney.com. Made my eyes water, it's so hot, but I'm so greedy. Oh, it's burning your mouth. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in for a third bit. Yeah, so good.